The great doors of the Galactic Consul chamber opened slowly. They were made of black stone that had been cut from an ancient asteroid. The stone was older than most civilizations in the galaxy. It had seen thousands of ambassadors walk through. It had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Today, it would witness something new. Park stepped through the doors alone. She was not tall. By human standards, she was average. By galactic standards, she was small. The smallest person to ever enter this chamber as an official ambassador. She wore a simple dark uniform with no medals, no decorations, and no weapons. Her black hair was pulled back from her face. Her eyes were calm and steady. The chamber was enormous. It stretched upward for hundreds of meters, carved into the heart of a space station that floated between 3 star systems. 12 platforms rose from the floor like stone fingers pointing at the ceiling. On each platform sat the representatives of the 12 most powerful species in this sector of the galaxy. They all watched Walk. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. The floor was polished so smooth that she could see her own reflection. She looked small against the vastness of the room. That was intentional. The chamber was designed to make visitors feel insignificant. Did not feel insignificant. She felt ready. High Consul sat on the highest platform. He was nearly 3 meters tall with a hard shell the color of dried blood. His species, the Militant Collective, had ruled this sector for 300 years. They had conquered 11 worlds. They had destroyed 2 species completely. When spoke, empires listened. His mandibles clicked together as he watched the human approach. The sound was like stones grinding against each other. "The humans send 1 delegate," he said. His voice was translated by a device that hung in the air, turning his clicking speech into words that all species could understand. "No fleet waits outside our station. No weapons are pointed at our walls. Earth sends 1 small female with no protection." Reached the center of the chamber. A single platform rose from the floor to meet her. It lifted her up so that she stood at eye level with the other ambassadors. She turned slowly, looking at each delegation in turn. There were massive reptiles with scales like armor and teeth like knives. They had conquered 17 worlds through pure military force. Their ambassador, Krill, was the largest that had ever seen. He watched her with yellow eyes that showed no emotion. They were thin and graceful, with silver skin and 4 arms. They were known for their intelligence and their cruelty. They did not conquer worlds. They manipulated them from the shadows until those worlds destroyed themselves. There were shapeshifters who could become anyone or anything. Their true form was like smoke given solid shape. No one knew how many existed. No one knew where there was. This made everyone nervous. There were 9 other species on the platforms. All of them were old. All of them were powerful. All of them had existed in space for thousands of years before humans had learned to make fire. And all of them were looking at like she was an insect that had wandered into their home. "Earth sends me," said. Her voice was calm and clear. It carried through the chamber without effort. That should be enough. Laughter erupted from several platforms. They hissed with amusement. They made a sound like breaking glass, which was their version of mockery. Even some of the quieter species shifted in their seats with disbelief. Ambassador Krill leaned forward. His platform groaned under his weight. "Little human," he said, "your planet has been traveling between stars for barely 200 years. You have no empire. You have no conquered territories. You have never won a war against another species because you have never fought one. You are children playing in a room full of adults." He spread his massive arms wide. "Why should we even give you a seat in this chamber? Why should we listen to anything you have to say?" Did not react to the insult. She had expected it. She had prepared for it. "You invited us," she said simply. "Earth did not ask to join your consul. We did not beg for membership. Your committee studied our species for 50 years before sending the invitation. You watched us. You analyzed us. And then you decided that we should be here." She paused and looked directly at High Consul. "I think you are afraid of us." The laughter stopped immediately. Santini twitched. This was a sign of anger among his kind. "Afraid? Of humans? Your species cannot even agree among yourselves. You fight wars against each other. You destroy your own planet with pollution and greed. You are barely capable of governing one world. Why would we fear you?" "Because you do not understand us," said, "and things you do not understand make you nervous." She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small device. Several ambassadors tensed. Security systems hummed to life around the chamber. Weapons that had been hidden in the walls began to power up. Pressed a button on the device. A holographic image appeared above her platform. It showed Earth spinning slowly in space. Blue oceans, green land, white clouds. "This is our home," she said. "One planet, 8 billion people. We have been killing each other since before we could write. We invented war before we invented the wheel. We created weapons that could destroy our entire species, and we pointed them at ourselves." She looked around the chamber. "And we are still here." The image changed. It showed human history in rapid sequence. Ancient battles with swords and spears, medieval warfare with arrows and siege engines, modern conflicts with tanks and aircraft, nuclear explosions that turned cities to ash. "Every species in this chamber has conquered others," continued. "You have destroyed civilizations that refuse to submit. You believe that all species will eventually surrender when faced with enough force. You believe that survival instinct will always win." She turned off the device. The images disappeared. "Humans are different. We do not surrender. We do not submit. When our cities are destroyed, we rebuild them. When our armies are defeated, we form new ones. When you kill our leaders, others take their place. We have been doing this for 200,000 years." The chamber was completely silent now. His voice dropped lower, but somehow it carried even further. "You invited us here because you wanted to control us. You wanted to bring us into your system before we became too powerful to manage. You thought that if you gave us a seat at your table, we would follow your rules." She smiled. It was not a warm smile. "You were wrong." High Consul stared at her for a long moment. His mandibles were still. His antennae had stopped moving. "Bold words," he finally said. "But words are easy. Actions are harder. We will see if humans are as dangerous as you claim." Nodded once. "Yes," she said, "you will." The first session of the Galactic Consul with human representation had begun. It would be remembered for a very long time. 3 weeks passed after his arrival at the Galactic Consul. 3 weeks of meetings, negotiations, and careful watching. The other species treated her with a strange mixture of curiosity and contempt. They invited her to dinners where she was seated at the lowest position. They asked her questions about Earth that were designed to make humanity seem primitive. They smiled with too many teeth and spoke with too much politeness. Endured it all, she was patient. She knew that respect could not be demanded, it had to be earned, or taken. Her aide lieutenant stayed by her side through everything. He was a young man, barely 30 years old, with a serious face and quick eyes. He had served in Earth's diplomatic corps for 6 years. Before that, he had been a soldier. He still moved like one. "Ambassador," he said one evening, as they walked through the station's observation deck, "the delegation has been watching us more closely than the others." Nodded. She had noticed too. Ambassador Krill had attended every session where she spoke. His yellow eyes followed her every movement. He asked questions that seemed innocent but were actually tests. "They are deciding something," she said. "I do not know what yet. Should I request additional security from Earth Command?" Shook her head. "That would show weakness. We came here alone for a reason. We must stay alone." Wanted to argue, but he knew better. He had learned that decisions usually had reasons that only became clear later. The next morning, everything changed. was in her quarters reviewing trade proposals when her communication device began to scream. It was an emergency signal, the kind that was only used when something terrible had happened. She grabbed the device and activated it. A face appeared on the screen. Admiral, Commander of Earth's Defense Force. He was an old man with gray hair and a face like carved stone. In all the years had known him, she had never seen him show fear. He looked afraid now. "Ambassador Park," he said. His voice was tight with controlled anger. "3 hours ago, a warship entered our solar system without permission. It approached Mars and destroyed the Frontier Research Station in orbit." Felt the blood drain from her face. The Frontier Station, she knew people there, scientists, engineers, families with children. "Casualties?" she asked. 47 confirmed dead. No survivors. Paused. The ship left immediately after the attack. It made no attempt to communicate. No warning was given. Had entered the room. He stood frozen, listening. "What is Earth Command's response?" asked. "We are waiting for your guidance, Ambassador. You are our representative to the Consul. This is your decision." Closed her eyes. 47 people, murdered without reason, without warning. They had decided to test humanity. They had chosen the test possible. "I will address the Consul," she said. "Prepare a full report on the attack. Include the names and faces of everyone who died. I want the galaxy to see them." "Understood," hesitated. "Ambassador, Earth is angry. Our people are demanding response. If the Consul does not provide justice, there will be pressure to act independently." "I know," opened her eyes. Something had changed in them, something hard and cold. "Tell Earth to wait. Tell them that I will handle this." She ended the call. Watched her carefully. He had served with her for 6 years. He had seen her face diplomats who lied to her face. He had seen her handle crises that would have broken other people. He had never seen her look like this. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "what are you going to do?" Did not answer immediately. She walked to her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 47 humans had died. Their bodies were still floating in the cold space around Mars. Their families were still waiting for news that would never be good. "They think we are weak," she finally said. "They think that because we are new to space, we will accept this insult. They expect us to protest politely, accept some meaningless apology, and continue as before." She turned to face. "They are wrong." 1 hour later, stood in the Galactic Consul chamber. Every ambassador was present. Word of the attack had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see how the humans would respond. Ambassador Krill sat on his platform with an expression that was almost bored. He had prepared a statement about the attack. He would call it a navigation error. He would express regret for the loss of life. He would offer compensation that was insulting in its smallness. He expected the human to be angry. He expected her to shout and threaten. Then he could dismiss her as emotional and primitive. This was how it always worked with young species. But did not shout, she did not threaten. She walked to her platform in complete silence. She stood very still as it rose to meet the other ambassadors. And when she spoke, her voice was calm and quiet. "High Consul," she said, "I formally request the floor." His antennae twitched. He had been watching, though, with disapproval. The attack was crude and obvious. It lacked subtlety. But it was not his place to intervene unless the humans requested it. "You have the floor, Ambassador Park." Activated the chamber's display system. The faces of 47 humans appeared, floating in the air above her. Scientists with kind eyes. Engineers with determined faces. Children who would never grow up. A pregnant woman who had been 3 months from giving birth. "These are the people who died," said. "Learn their names. Remember their faces. They were not soldiers. They were not warriors. They were people who wanted to study the stars." She let the images hang in the air for a long moment. "The collective has committed an act of war against Earth," she continued. We did not provoke this attack. We did not threaten interests. Our people died because someone decided to send a message. She turned to face Ambassador Krill directly. I received that message. Now I will send one of my own. Krill shifted on his platform. This was not going as expected. The human was too calm, too controlled. It made him uncomfortable. I am authorized to deliver a message directly from the United Earth Council, said. Her voice carried through the chamber like the sound of a blade being drawn. This message is simple, it is clear, and it is absolute. She paused. Do not mess with Earth. Krill rose from his seat. His scales bristled with anger. Is that a threat, human? From a species that has never won a single war against another world? From a people who spent the last century fighting among yourselves like animals? Smiled. It was the coldest smile that anyone in that chamber had ever seen. We have never fought an interstellar war, she agreed. You are correct about that. But tell me, Ambassador Krill, do you know why we fought among ourselves for so long? Krill did not answer. Because we had no one else to fight. Smile disappeared. Now we do. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every ambassador. The collective has 1 week to deliver the crew of the ship that attacked our station. They will face trial on Earth for murder. If they are not delivered, Earth will consider it a declaration of war. She stepped down from her platform. And I promise you, Ambassador Krill, you do not want to see what humans do in war. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. The silence she left behind lasted for a very long time. The days after this warning were tense. The delegation refused to respond to her demands. Ambassador Krill called her threats the barking of a small dog. He said that Earth would learn its place, one way or another. He laughed when reporters asked if he was worried. But behind closed doors, the other species were nervous. High Consul called an emergency session. Not a full Consul meeting, but a smaller gathering of the most powerful delegations. He wanted to understand what the humans were capable of. He wanted to know if their threats were real or empty. Was invited to explain. She brought Lieutenant with her. She also brought something else. A small data device that contained the complete history of human warfare, every battle, every war, every weapon ever created. The meeting room was smaller than the main chamber. Only 6 species were present. The collective, and 2 others who rarely spoke in public but controlled vast territories. Sat at the head of the table. His massive form dominated the room. Ambassador Park, he said, you have made serious threats against the collective. Before this situation grows worse, we want to understand your species better. You claim that humans are dangerous. Prove it. Stood at the end of the table. She was the smallest person in the room by far. But somehow she did not look small. You have all studied humanity, she said. Your scientists have observed us for decades. Your spies have lived among us. You believe you understand us. She activated her data device. A holographic display appeared above the table. Let me show you what you missed. The first image was ancient. Stone tools, primitive weapons made of sharpened rock and bone. Humans have been killing each other since before we were fully human, said. Our earliest ancestors made weapons, not for hunting, for war. We found skeletons from 100,000 years ago with spear wounds. We have always been warriors. The image changed. Ancient battles appeared. Armies crashing together with bronze swords and wooden shields. Cities burning, populations being slaughtered. We invented civilization so we could fight bigger wars. The first cities were built for defense. The first governments were created to organize armies. We learned to write so we could record our victories and remember our enemies. Ambassador Krill made a dismissive sound. All species have wars in their past. This proves nothing. Wait, said, I'm not finished. The images accelerated. Century after century of human conflict. The Mongol conquests that killed 40 million people, the religious wars that tore continents apart, the colonial invasions that reshaped entire worlds. Humans do not fight like other species, continued. When they conquered the system, they surrendered after losing 3 major battles. When they invaded, they submitted after their capital was destroyed. This is normal. This is logical. When defeat is certain, intelligent beings accept it. She paused. Humans do not do this. A new set of images appeared. A city in ruins. Buildings collapsed into rubble, streets torn apart by explosions. And in the middle of the destruction, humans were fighting. Not soldiers, ordinary people. Old men with hunting rifles. Women throwing bottles filled with fire. Children carrying messages through the ruins. This was a city called Stalingrad, said. During one of our world wars, an enemy army surrounded it. They had more soldiers, more weapons, more supplies. By every measure, they should have won. The logical response would have been surrender. She looked around the table. The defenders fought for 5 months. They fought in the streets. They fought in the buildings. They fought in the sewers. When they ran out of ammunition, they fought with knives and rocks and bare hands. More than 1 million people died in that single battle. The room had gone very quiet. The defenders won, said. The enemy army was destroyed. Lieutenant stepped forward. His face was hard and serious. My grandmother was born during the Unification Wars, he said. When enemy soldiers invaded her country, they burned her village. She was 11 years old. Her parents were killed in front of her. Her brothers were taken and never seen again. He paused. She walked 200 kilometers through winter to reach safety. She had no food, no warm clothes. She survived by eating tree bark and snow. When she finally reached a refugee camp, she weighed less than 30 kilograms. His voice grew stronger. She lived to be 93 years old. She raised 4 children. She saw her country rebuilt. And every year on the anniversary of the invasion, she would tell her one thing. He looked directly at Ambassador Krill. Never surrender, never forget, never forgive. Took control of the display again. The images changed to show human weapons, not ancient swords or primitive guns, modern weapons, nuclear missiles, biological agents, chemical weapons that could poison entire cities. We created these to use against ourselves, she said. We built weapons capable of ending our entire species. We pointed them at our own cities. We held our own children hostage against our own destruction. She let that sink in. And then we stopped. We stepped back from the edge. We chose not to destroy ourselves, but we kept the weapons. We improved them. We made them more powerful. The display showed a map of Earth. Hundreds of red dots marked the locations of weapon systems. Every major nation on Earth has the capability to destroy civilization, said. We have lived with this reality for 300 years. We go to sleep every night knowing that everything we love could be gone by morning. She turned off the display. This is what you do not understand about humans. We are not afraid of destruction. We have been living with it our entire existence. We have looked into the void and decided to keep going anyway. High Consul spoke for the first time since the presentation began. His voice was quieter than usual. You describe a species of, he said, beings who would rather die than surrender, who would destroy everything rather than accept defeat. Yes, said simply. This is not strength, this is insanity. Shook her head. It is survival. Every species in this room has conquered others. You have destroyed civilizations that refuse to submit. You expect all beings to eventually break under enough pressure. You believe that survival instinct will always win in the end. She stepped closer to the table. Human survival instinct works differently. We do not survive by avoiding danger. We survive by destroying it. We do not survive by surrendering to threats. We survive by eliminating them. We have been doing this for 200,000 years. She looked at Ambassador Krill. They have conquered 17 worlds. Impressive. Humans have survived countless extinctions, ice ages, plagues, and wars. We have been nearly wiped out more times than we can count, and every single time we came back stronger. She straightened her uniform. You asked me to prove that humans are dangerous. I have shown you our history. I have shown you our weapons. I have shown you the mindset that made us what we are. She walked toward the door. Now you must decide. Is the crew of one ship worth starting a war with a species that would rather burn the galaxy than submit? She left the room without waiting for an answer. Behind her, the most powerful beings in the sector sat in stunned silence. For the first time in their long histories, they were not sure they were the most dangerous things in the room. The deadline passed without response. The collective refused to hand over the crew of the ship that had attacked Mars. Ambassador Krill released a public statement calling humanity's demands absurd and the desperate noise of an irrelevant species. The galaxy watched and waited. Most expected Earth to back down. They had made bold threats, yes, but threats were easy. Following through was harder. Surely the humans would realize they were outmatched. Surely they would accept some compromise and move on. They did not know humans very well. On the 8th day after the deadline, a single ship arrived at the Galactic Consul station. It was small and unarmed. A diplomatic courier. Nothing threatening about it at all. But the man who stepped off that ship was very threatening indeed. Admiral had commanded Earth's defense force for 23 years. He had never lost a battle, even in simulation. He had designed the defense systems that protected Earth's colonies. He had trained every flag officer in the human fleet. He was 67 years old. His hair was gray. His face was weathered like old leather. His eyes were calm and steady and showed nothing at all. He walked into the consul chamber alone. No guards, no aides, just one old man in a simple uniform. Every ambassador was present. Word had spread that the humans were going to do something. No one wanted to miss it. Stood on her platform, waiting. When entered, she stepped down to greet him properly. "Admiral," she said, "thank you for coming." Nodded once. "Ambassador, is the chamber ready?" "It is." They walked together to the central platform, carried a small device in his hand. It looked ordinary, harmless, just a communication unit. High Consul watched them approach. His antennae were still. His mandibles were closed. He had learned to read human expressions over the past weeks. He could see that something important was about to happen. "Admiral," he said, "Earth's Defense Force has sent its highest commander to this station. This is unusual." "It is," agreed. His voice was flat and calm, but the situation required it. "What situation is that?" "You will see." Activated the central display system, but instead of showing images from human history, he established a live connection to a secure military channel. A real-time feed appeared above the chamber. The view showed empty space. Stars glittered in the darkness, nothing unusual. "What you are about to see," said, "is a demonstration, nothing more. No species will be harmed. No inhabited worlds will be affected. This is simply a display of capability." Ambassador Krill hissed with contempt. "A display? You brought your fleet commander here to show us pictures." "Not pictures," said, "reality." The view shifted. It focused on a single object floating in the void. A moon. Barren rock perhaps 1,000 kilometers across. Gray and dead and unremarkable. "This moon belongs to the consortium," explained. "It is scheduled for mining operations next year. There are no inhabitants, no structures, no value except raw materials." He looked at the ambassador, a crystalline being who rarely spoke. "We requested permission to use it for this demonstration. Permission was granted." The ambassador made a sound like wind chimes. Confirmation. Every eye in the chamber was fixed on the display. Earth has spent 3 centuries developing weapons, continued. Most of that time, we pointed them at each other. When we finally reached the stars, we realized we needed to point them somewhere else. He pressed a button on his device. For a moment, nothing happened. The moon floated peacefully in space. Stars twinkled around it. Then space itself seemed to bend. It was hard to describe what happened next. The moon did not explode. It was not struck by missiles or lasers or anything visible. Instead, it simply changed. Cracks appeared across its surface. Deep fissures spread like lightning frozen in stone. And then it collapsed. The moon fell inward on itself. 1,000 kilometers of solid rock crushed down into a point smaller than a human fist. The process took less than 3 seconds. Where a moon had been, there was only a cloud of dust expanding slowly into the void. The chamber was absolutely silent. Let the silence stretch. He wanted them to understand what they had just seen. He wanted them to feel it. That weapon, he finally said, creates a localized gravity field. It is similar to the heart of a black hole, but temporary and controlled. The field compresses everything within its range into a single point. Rock, metal, flesh. It does not matter. He turned to face the delegation. The effective range of that weapon is 17 light years. We have 412 of them. Their locations are classified. Ambassador Krill had gone very still. His scales, which were normally a deep green, had turned pale. The continued is 11 light years from our nearest deployment platform. His voice remained perfectly calm. He could have been discussing the weather. Krill struggled to form words. His translator clicked and buzzed as it tried to keep up. You would destroy an entire world, billions of lives, over 47 humans. Did not blink. We spent centuries developing weapons to destroy ourselves, entire cities, millions of people. We created devices that could end all life on Earth, and we were willing to use them against our own brothers and sisters. He took a step closer to the platform. What makes you think we would hesitate to use them against strangers? The chamber erupted into chaos. Ambassadors shouted questions and accusations. Security systems hummed with tension. Somewhere, alarms were probably going off. High Consul raised his limbs and clicked his mandibles loudly. The sound cut through the noise like a blade. Slowly, the chamber fell quiet. Admiral said, his voice was careful and controlled. You have demonstrated that Earth possesses weapons of significant power, but having weapons and using them are different things. Destroying an inhabited world would make you monsters, outcasts. Every species in the galaxy would unite against you. Perhaps, agreed, but there would still be dust. The species would still be dead. Everything they ever built would be gone. He shrugged. Would your alliance bring them back? Did not have an answer for that. Stepped forward. She had been silent throughout the demonstration, letting speak. Now it was her turn. We do not want war, she said. Earth has never started an interstellar conflict. We have no desire to destroy worlds or end civilizations. We want peace. We want trade. We want cooperation. She looked at Ambassador Krill. But we will not be bullied. We will not be attacked without response. We will not watch our people die and do nothing. She raised her voice so it carried to every corner of the chamber. The crew of the ship that destroyed our station will be delivered to Earth for trial. The collective will pay compensation to the families of those who died, and the galaxy will understand one simple truth. She paused. Earth does not make empty threats. Admiral deactivated the display. The image of the destroyed moon faded away, but the memory of it remained, burned into the minds of everyone who had watched. Turned and walked toward the exit. He paused at the door and looked back at the assembled ambassadors. We are patient people, he said. We waited 300 years to develop these weapons. We can wait a little longer to use them, but our patience is not infinite. He nodded too. The ambassador will handle the details. I have a fleet to command. He left without another word. In the silence that followed, Ambassador Krill slowly sat down. His scales had not regained their color. His eyes, usually so cold and confident, showed something new. Fear. For the first time in the history of the collective, they had met a species they were not sure they could defeat. And they did not like the feeling at all. They surrendered 3 days later. Not completely, of course. They did not bow down to Earth or admit defeat. Their pride would never allow that. But they delivered the crew of the ship that had attacked Mars. 12 officers in restraints, their scales dull with shame, their eyes fixed on the ground. Ambassador Krill himself brought them too. He spoke through clenched teeth, his translator struggling to convey his anger. Earth has its criminals, he said. Take them. But remember this, human, today you have made enemies, the do not forget. Accepted the prisoners with a simple nod. Neither do we. The crew was transported to Earth for trial. They were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment on a station orbiting Neptune. It was cold there, dark, empty. They would have a long time to think about what they had done. The paid compensation to the families of the victims. The amount was substantial, not because they were generous, but because had negotiated brilliantly. She had used their fear against them. They paid more than they wanted to because they were afraid of what would happen if they refused. The galaxy watched all of this with fascination and concern. Earth had proven itself dangerous, but more than that, it had proven itself unpredictable. Most species followed logical patterns. Their behavior could be calculated and anticipated. Humans did not work that way. They were emotional and stubborn and willing to take risks that made no sense. This made everyone nervous. High Consul requested a private meeting with. It was held in a small observation room at the top of the station. Through the windows, they could see the nebula that surrounded them, clouds of gas and dust glowing with the light of dying stars. Stood by the window for a long time before speaking. His body was still. His antennae barely moved. I have studied your species for many years, he finally said. Long before you reached the stars, I was watching Earth, reading your histories, analyzing your behaviors. I believed I understood you. Waited. She had learned that silences were often more meaningful than his words. I thought you were simple, he continued. Aggressive, territorial, short-lived and short-sighted, like many young species, driven by emotion rather than reason. I expected you to burn yourselves out eventually, as so many others have. He turned to face her. I was wrong. Nodded slightly. What changed your mind? The contradiction, Santeni twitched. You destroy yourselves constantly. Your history is nothing but war after war, atrocity after atrocity. You have killed more of your own kind than most species kill in total, and yet you are still here. You survived. You grew stronger. He made a sound that his translator rendered as a sigh. Every other species I have encountered follows logical patterns. When defeat is certain, they surrender. When resistance is futile, they submit. It is the rational response. It preserves lives and resources. It allows for recovery. But humans do not do this, said. No, you do not. His voice carried something that might have been respect. Your people fight when they cannot win. They resist when resistance will only bring more pain. They choose death over submission, destruction over defeat. He paused. Is that not madness? Walked to the window and stood beside him. The nebula painted her face with soft colors, red and gold and deep purple. Probably, she admitted. By your standards, we are insane. We do not make rational choices. We follow our hearts even when our minds tell us it is foolish. She looked at the dying stars. But this madness has kept us alive. Our ancestors faced predators stronger and faster than them. They faced ice ages that should have killed them. They faced plagues and famines and disasters that would have ended most species, and they survived because they refused to give up. She turned to, "We are not rational creatures, High Consul. We are stubborn creatures. We survive through pure determination, not logic. We outlast our problems because we simply will not stop trying." Was quiet for a long moment. "I will give you advice, Ambassador. Speak carefully when you address the other species. Some of them are already afraid of what they saw in that demonstration. Fear makes beings dangerous. They may decide that Earth must be destroyed before you grow stronger." "I know." His expression did not change. "That is why we showed them the weapon. Fear keeps everyone polite. And if someone decides that fear is intolerable, that the risk of leaving Earth alone is greater than the risk of attacking." Before could answer, the door opened. Lieutenant entered and handed her a. His face was calm, but his eyes were alert. Read the report quickly, then she nodded and dismissed him. "High Consul," she said quietly, "in the time we have been talking, Earth Command has identified 7 assassination plots against me. We have detected 2 unauthorized scans of our weapon platforms. We have intercepted a coded transmission from the ambassador to their recommending a preemptive strike against Earth." Santeni went completely still. "We have also identified the 14 sleeper agents currently stationed on this facility," continued. 3 of them are in this section of the station. We have located the 3 listening devices hidden in this room, and we found the poison capsule someone placed in my water supply this morning." She pulled a small glass bottle from her pocket. Inside was a dark liquid. "We did not drink it, obviously." Stared at the bottle. "How long have you known about these things?" "Since the first day." Put the bottle away. "We are not naive, High Consul. We have never been naive. We have been betraying and murdering each other for 200,000 years. Your species has been in space but in some ways you are still innocent. You follow rules, you respect agreements, you expect others to do the same." She shook her head. "Humans learned long ago that trust must be earned, that agreements can be broken, that even allies can become enemies. We watch everyone. We trust no one completely. We prepare for betrayal even from those we call friends." She met his eyes directly. "The galaxy is just a bigger neighborhood. The same rules apply." Was silent for a very long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, almost gentle. "What do you want, Ambassador? Not for Earth, for yourself. What do you hope to achieve here?" Looked back at the nebula, the dying stars, the vast emptiness of space. "I want peace," she said. "Real peace. Not the kind that exists because everyone is too afraid to fight. The kind that exists because everyone has decided that fighting is not worth it." She turned back to, "Earth wants to be part of this community. We want to trade and learn and grow alongside other species. We have so much to offer, our art, our music, our stories, our determination. We could make this galaxy better. But we will not sacrifice our dignity to do it. We will not bow to bullies. We will not let our people be murdered without response. We will not pretend to be weak when we are strong." She straightened her uniform. "The thought they could push us around. They learned differently. If others want to test us, they will learn the same lesson. But if anyone wants to work with us as equals, they will find us to be good partners." She extended her hand. It was a human gesture, a sign of friendship and agreement. Looked at the hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out with one of his forelimbs and touched it. "I believe," he said, "that the galaxy is about to change very much. I hope it changes for the better." "So do I," said. In the years that followed, Earth became known throughout the galaxy, not for conquest or cruelty, but for something unexpected: fairness. Humans brokered treaties between ancient enemies. They mediated disputes that had lasted for centuries. They built bridges where walls had stood for generations. But no one ever forgot the demonstration, the moon that collapsed into dust, the calm voice of Admiral explaining how far their weapons could reach, the quiet determination in Ambassador Park's eyes. And in every negotiation, in every trade agreement, in every moment of tension, the same phrase echoed in the minds of those who remembered. Do not mess with Earth. None ever did.